we're at our final segment of our Elul, I guess now Tishrei series, and that is what was Elul like if you were sitting with a few Torah giants. So we got to see what it was like to be in Rav Dessler's base medrash. We got to see what it was like in Yeshiva University with Rav Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik. We got to see what it was like with Rav Kook, maybe in the Merkez Arav. Today, Bezat Hashem, we're going to start off by seeing what it was like if we were growing up in the city of Radin, and we got to go into the yeshiva halls of the Radin Yeshiva and to hear from the Chofetz Chaim. So as always, we're going to start with a little bit of history of who the Chofetz Chaim was, a few stories, and then we'll discuss what, again, my perception of what his thesis of what Elul and Tishrei is all about, and then we'll elaborate on it. So the Chofetz Chaim is Rabbi Yisrael Meir HaKohen Kagan. He was born in 1839 and he was nifter in 1933. He was 95 years old. He had a lot of arichas yamim. The chief rabbi of Eretz Yisrael, the prior chief rabbi, Rav Yisrael Meir Lau, is named after the Chofetz Chaim, right? Rabbi Yisrael Meir HaKohen Kagan is named after him. He was born pre-war, and he was named after the Chofetz Chaim. Chofetz Chaim was a genius of geniuses. He wrote dozens of books. All of them had to do with day to day. So first, the sefer that he wrote, the first sefer that he wrote that I guess put him on the map, was called Chofetz Chaim. What is the sefer Chofetz Chaim all about? It's about Shmirat HaLashon, about being able to speak properly, not talking lashon hara about one another. He felt that was rampant. He felt that there was a lot of that unfortunately was going on. So he wrote a sefer specifically on that, and his name became his sefer. Right, a lot of the great tzaddikim and rabbis of the previous generations are known not by their personal name, but actually known after the books that they wrote. You have the Shulchan Aruch, you have the Beis Yosef, which is the same individual. You have the Sfas Sames, the Ksav Sofer, right? The Chofetz Chaim. It's all based on the Sfarim and the works that he did. So he wrote a lot of Sfarim. Actually, one of the Sefer that he wrote, one of the Sfarim that he wrote was called the Machaneh Yisrael, and it was about Jewish soldiers that were being drafted to the army, and all the different questions that arise in keeping kashrus and keeping Torah and mitzvos while you're in a non-Jewish army. So he was mamish breakthrough. He became an orphan at a very young age. He was 10 years old when his father passed away. His mother moved to Vilna. She got remarried there, and then he came back to Radin, where he became the Rav of the city. He stepped down from the Rabbanis of the city, and he became the Rosh Yeshiva. But throughout his life, he was always going around and really trying to help Am Yisrael, and really trying to he wasn't just someone who was like in his kollel sitting and learning all day, but his whole life was about trying to help and improve the Jewish people. And we'll say a few stories just about his Avos Yisrael. One of them was that there was an individual who was once sick with like some sort of like rare disease, rare machla, and he came to the Chofetz Chaim and he started crying. And he said, I can't, I'm not going to live. All the doctors say that it's over, and I have a wife and I have Yisomim. They're going to be orphans, all my kids. And the Chofetz Chaim was very moved, and he told him, he said, listen, I'll daven for you. He says, just do me a favor. He says, don't ever tell anyone that you came to me. I guess he didn't want to be like Baba, where like you come and like you see, he becomes like all these nisim happen. So that's what he did. He left, and lo and behold, it was a miracle, and he got better. 20 years later, someone else in this person's town became sick with the same exact disease. So he felt bad for him. He saw all the suffering he was going through, and he remembered what he went through. And even though he made the promise to the Chofetz Chaim, he told this individual, he says, listen, I'll tell you the secret how I got better. He said, I know I'm not really supposed to reveal this, but I'll tell you anyways. He says, I went to the Chofetz Chaim. He says, and I asked him, and he said to daven, he said that he would daven for me, and that's exactly what he did. So this individual says, okay, this is my get out of jail free card. So he gets to the city of Radin, and he goes to the Chofetz Chaim, and he tells him all he went through, and he says, I'm apologizing in the name of the person who told me, but even that individual, he said that he shouldn't really reveal it, but at the end of the day, he told me, so that's why I'm here. So Chofetz Chaim held his hand and he said, I'm really sorry. He says, I can't help you. He says, last time, when the first individual came, he said, he moved me so greatly, and I felt his pain so deeply that I took upon myself to fast for 30 days and daven for him. He says, it's now 20 years later, I'm a much older man. He says, I can't fast for 30 days. He says, give me your name, I'll daven for you. He says, but I'm not going to be able to fast for so long. So I don't know. But that shows like his Avos Yisrael that he had for everyone. There's another story I heard from Rabbi Wein. or a barrel of wine. I think this is also on YouTube. It's an amazing, incredible story of like the Chofetz Chaim. So the Chofetz Chaim, in the yeshiva that he built, the yeshiva of Radin, so there was a community nearby that wasn't like a city, like a town. That was a little further away. That they weren't. There was a mikveh there that wasn't kosher. It wasn't to the best of what it should be. And some of the people in town came to the Chofetz Chaim to ask him if he can, galvanize people to be mechazik the town. So the Chofetz Chaim gets up in Elul. I think it was Tzom Gedalia, and right after Elul, and he claps on the bima after Shachris, and he says, "There's a certain town." And he says, "I'm looking for volunteers to go on Yom Kippur to be mechazik the tzibur over there, to be mechazik the tzibur, to be able to daven, and then someone should get up and discuss about the importance of having a kosher mikvah in the community." And he goes back to see it. A few minutes later, there's one of the yeshiva boys comes to the Chofetz Chaim, and he starts asking him like a very intricate question in the Tosfos. And they're going back and forth, and they're handling his mutter, whatever, aser, all the details. And after 10 minutes, he resolves it. And then the Chofetz Chaim turns to the boy and says, "No, did you hear what I said?" And he's like, "What?" He said, the announcement. "Did you hear the announcement?" I said, "I'm looking for volunteers of people who would go to this town to be mechazik the community." So the boy says, "Listen, how am I supposed to leave yeshiva? And it's Yom Kippur, and it's this, and that." So the Chofetz Chaim looked at him, and he spat on the floor, and he said, "Fui on your Tosfos." That's what Rabbi Wein said. He says, meaning if you're learning, but you don't feel Ahavas Yisrael, you don't feel the love, you don't feel how you can really go help on, Am Yisrael. So there's something here that's a little bit that's missing. You're not internalizing what the Torah is supposed to do to an individual. So that's just who the Chofetz Chaim was. His incredible genius. His Sfarim, obviously the Mishnah Brura, which is like all Psak Halacha today, almost just about all of Psak Halacha today is from the Mishnah Brura, which is 6-volume set just on Orach Chaim. Right? Orach Chaim is one of the 4 sections of the Shulchan Aruch, and the Mishnah Brura is on just on Orach Chaim. You didn't get to finish all the other halakim of Shulchan Aruch, but it's an incredible work. And every yeshiva, almost every home you walk into today, you'll see a Chafet, you'll see a Mishnah Brura. If you don't have one, you should get one. And it's translated now, I think, into English, almost the whole thing. But it's an amazing, incredible thing. Okay, so let's try to understand what the Chofetz Chaim's philosophy on tshuva was. Or if we were in the city of Radin and he got up in shul and spoke, what would we hear him? Say? So one of the it's not for the faint of heart. I'll give you like a warning, a disclaimer, and he says as follows. He says that his thesis of, I think in life in general, but specifically when it comes to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is that one needs to live his life as if he's going to die today. That's his whole philosophy. He says if you keep that on your mind, that it's over today, he says you're going to be the best person you can ever be. You'll be the most productive person. You'll be the nicest person. You'll learn so much Torah. You'll be so nice to all those people around you. But if a person keeps top of mind that at any given moment, a person's life can be ended, so then it gives you a lot of clarity of what exactly you're living for. We all feel like we're here forever. We all feel like we're going to be here forever. And that's I don't know, that's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the world. But in his Sefer on Tshuva, he has, it's called Shem Olam, he has a chapter there on Tshuva, so he discusses this idea that a person needs to always remember front of mind. And the story I saw from Rabbi Abraham Tursky, he says that the Chofetz Chaim used to walk around, he had the special bag whenever you would travel, and you would travel a lot throughout Europe to be mechazik people to learn, and he always kept with him tachrichei mesim. Tachrichei mesim are the cloths that they would wrap people who passed away, right? The tachrichim that they would pass, that they would wrap people who passed away in. He kept that in his bag as like a reminder that it could be over at any moment. But so again, it's not for the faint of heart. But when a person actually thinks about that, he'll become the best version of himself. So he elaborates like this. He says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, so he created the malachim. The malachim are purely spiritual creatures, and then he created animals. Animals are purely physical creatures. All they do is think about the next meal, right? If they're thinking, that's all that's on their mind. Humans are a fusion of both. We have on the one hand a spiritual, conscious neshama that we can talk, we can communicate, we think, we have ideas, we learn from the past, we looking into the future. But at the same time, we all have our physical, animalistic drives. And our whole goal in life is to try to combine these two drives together and try to manage both of them. And the way to do that, he explains, as I mentioned before, is to constantly always think that, okay, what if you're here for a purpose? So what is that goal that you're here, and what could you do to overcome that? And he says, in order to really live life with this philosophy, it needs to be top of mind, number one. And number two, he suggests that at least once a year, a person should take a break, and for a week, spend a week learning, where he can like recharge his batteries, his spiritual batteries. He says a lot of times you can't really do it at home, so he suggested, maybe go to yeshiva, go to a seminary, go to a different place. He says, but if not, even like I guess now the shuls should try to create environments where people can come and sit and learn and really recharge their their batteries and understand what their goal and what their mission in life is. And he explains that he gives a lot of mishalim, he gives a lot of how do you say a mashal in English? Parables or examples, right? So he says, imagine a person is on a horse back in the day, right? You're the horse driver, so you have the reins and you're holding the horse, and the horse is driving, and you're getting from point A to point B. But you've been up for a very long time. What happens? You fall asleep. So the moment you fall asleep, the reins get loosened, and the moment the reins get loosened, what's the horse going to do? Whatever is in his desire. He's going to turn to the side. He's going to take a break. He's going to start eating some grass. He's going to go to the right. He said, you are here. Your neshama is the wagon driver, and your body is the horse. If you're awake and you're constantly always thinking, how can I improve? How can I do better? So then you're holding the reins. But the moment we fall asleep and we get lazy and we take off top of our mind what our goals are, what happens? Our animalistic drives take over and they shift our horse off track. And then that's what causes us to, and that's what causes us to, and that's what he says. We say on Mincha Shabbos, Adamu ve'ema toshia Hashem. That if a person understands that he's an Adam and a behema, they understands both. If you're able to internalize these two things, so then Toshia Hashem, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will actually save us. So he writes, he says that in order to keep this top of mind, a person needs to think that Olam Haba is eternity. Right now, eternity is something that's so hard for us to imagine, right? We can understand 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The rabbi speaks an extra 5 minutes, it feels like eternity, but that's not eternity. Right? Eternity is actual, like he says, imagine all the cells in your body, and then all the cells of all the humans in all the body. Billions, trillions, gazillions. Eternity is longer than that. So why would you give up a fleeting pleasure for all that time? Right? After 120, it's eternal. It's ever. It's forever. Right? We can't even imagine what forever means. Right? So he says, if a person keeps that top of mind, that every avera, every lashon hara you're going to say, every inappropriate thing, right? It's just a fleeting second of pleasure. Right, and you calculate that against eternity. It's like it's not even a question. There's a story. The Chofetz Chaim once came to speak in Grodno, in the city of Grodno, and he was much older at the time. So there were students that put him on a chair, and there were like 5 or 6 of them that were carrying him. And on the way to the shul of where he was being carried to go to speak, there was like an alleyway. And so many people came to see the Chofetz Chaim. He was the gadol of the generation, that it got like so jammed in that area that they weren't able to move so much. So the Chofetz Chaim was like whispering to himself. And one of the students that was there, his name was Rav Zedel Epstein. So he went to lean in, to listen in. What's the Chofetz Chaim saying? What's he telling himself now? Like as we're about to, there's like thousands of people on the street. So he said, he leaned in, and the Chofetz Chaim was saying, Yisrael Meir, if you can't make it through people who think so highly of you, can you imagine what it will be like in the world to come? How will you make it through all the malachi Kabbalah? What will you do then? Right, so this is obviously a tzaddik who every second lived his life, meaning what's going to happen? What's going on over here? Right? Every second is it could be over, and therefore a person needs to live with that in mind. But not to get too depressing, right? So he ends off with a hope. And what's the hope? The hope is that a person throughout life might think like, wow, it's too big. I have too many things I need to do, A and B and C. How am I supposed to fix all these things? So explains the Chofetz Chaim. He says that a person, it's like paying back a loan. You can do it in installments. You can do it in, one at a time. Don't feel that you have to do everything now, right? We're in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is in a few days. We're going to feel like, how am I supposed to do tshuva? You read all the al-chetz. My goodness, right? Halavai, I can fix one. How am I supposed to do all of them? So says the Chofetz Chaim, he says, choose 1 or 2 or 3. Try to get a few of them, where you can actually, focus on them and improve those, and those are the ones that you should work on. And he says there was once a student who came to ask the Chofetz Chaim. He says, they say that in when Davening Shemon Esrei, he says when non-Jews need to travel from point A to B, they need to buy a ticket, right? He says when Jews, we need to go from point A to B. You know what we need to do? Daven Shemon Esrei. Right, you start davening. You're smart. Your mind starts traveling. You can go to New York. You can come back to Texas. You can go to the Maldives. It can take like all within one Shemon Esrei. You can travel the whole world. And they say that's pshat in the pasuk. It says ele berechev ele besusim. Right, the non-Jews, when they want to go from point A and point B, they need to drive a car. They need to go to the horse. V'anachnu, what do? B'shem Hashem neskil. We just daven Shemon Esrei, and then we can travel. We can travel the whole world in our mind. right? So that's what they say in the pasuk. So someone came up to the Chofetz Chaim and he asked him, he says, Rabbi, what happens if I get to like Sim Shalom? He says, I started Shemona Esrei and I went everywhere. I went to the doctor's appointment that I had the day before, and I went to what I needed to do tomorrow, and I came back, and then I get to Sim Shalom, and I'm like, what? How did I get here? Right? You don't even know. Maybe you said the Shabbos Shemona Esrei. Maybe you say you have no idea, but you get to Shem Shalom. What do you do at this point? Right? Should I have kavanah at least for this, or should I just cut my losses and Osha Shalom? So the Chofetz Chaim says, he gave a mashal again, and he says, what happens if you're selling apples in like the shuk, and a kid comes and he knocks it over, and all the apples start rolling down the hill, and everyone starts, free apples. Everyone starts grabbing all the apples. He says, would you just give up, or would you try to at least what? Grab the few apples that you could, the ones that are here, at least put those back in the basket. Try to save those. He says, of course, you should try to save the apples that you could save. So he says, you get up to Sim Shalom. So what? So you wrote off all of Shemona Esrei up until now. Right? He says, but Sim Shalom, you can say with kavanah. Can you imagine the words? Sim Shalom, Tova v'cha, let there be peace and bracha and simcha, right? On all of Am Yisrael. Of course, you should have kavanah with that. And his same philosophy was when it came to tshuva. When it comes to tshuva, there's a lot to do. A person needs to keep front of mind that every day could chas v'shalom be his last day. But at the end of the day, start with one thing at a time. In this area, you're going to speak Lashon Hara, don't go to that area. In this group of friends, they're going to cause you to do things that are inappropriate, don't hang out with those group of things. Write a list for yourself. What are the things that you can work on? And then one at a time, try to work on each one. So this was the end of our series of our 4 different Torah giants that we discussed. Like I said, we saw Rav Dessler, we saw the Rav, we saw Rav Soloveitchik, and now we saw the Chofetz Chaim. And hopefully we got a little bit of a flavor of what it was like to be in their base medrash at their times. And I need to ask Mechila from the tzaddikim, and if I didn't portray exactly what they meant in the way that they really meant it. But this is my simple understanding of what these tzaddikim said in the Sfarim that I learned, and I hope I portrayed it in the right way. And I hope everyone was able every week to get a little bit something from what we've done.